Hi friend, thank you for joining me here at the Stitchity Doo Doll Studio. Now I know what you're thinking, Halloween is over, but just hear me out. Hear me out. I've got some fun Halloween makes to share with you. And so I figured, as makers, we all want to see what each other makes. So I figured I'd make this video anyway. So let's get into it. My first finished object I want to talk about it's actually a slasher. Yeah, I don't usually make slashers, but I have made another one. I've made Chucky before upon request, and this is also upon request only. So I made Jason Voorhees, and if you don't know who he is, he's the Jason with the ski mask, hockey mask? Ski mask? Hockey mask, I think, from Friday the 13th. The scary movie, slasher. And I don't have him with me. He's already been gifted to a dear family friend, and he's an adult, so I didn't have to worry about any of the materials that I've used in this project. But this is the very first time that I've used a wire armature in my project. I don't usually like to use wire armature in my project because most of my toys are intended for either children or for shelves, which I'm not even sure which ones are going to end up being for adults for their shelves, for just for aesthetics or for collecting. But this, I knew exactly who it was going to, so I didn't have to worry about that. And I'm so glad that I worked on this pattern because it gave me the opportunity to try and work on a wire armature. It was a little bit of a learning experience. I used some of my pipe cleaners and I twisted them together and I wrapped them whenever I needed to join them. I wrapped them with yarn and then I just bent them and formed them in order to fit into my doll. And it worked, and so it allows the doll to be posable, which I think is fun and unique. What I also got to try in this pattern is using glue. I did water it down a little bit to make it easier for me to spread, but I got to use glue to stiffen the crochet fabric. If you've never done that, I highly suggest you try it. It's so fun. It's like painting, and I really enjoyed it. It was a very fun process for me. And so what you do is you just take your mask, you finish your mask, and you just water down your just everyday white glue. You can use Elmer's glue. I didn't have any Elmer's glue. I used my tacky glue and I watered it down. Any kind of white, basic white glue is usable. You can even find some at the Dollar Tree. Just water it down, use some ratty old paintbrush that you don't mind getting ruined. I mean, I didn't ruin mine, but just in case. You don't want to use your best painting brushes for this project. You just dip it in and then you just basically saturate your fabric. And then you let it dry and it turns not quite plasticky. I mean, you can tap on it and you can hear it sounds plasticky. It gives it a stiff rigidness, and that was pretty cool. I really enjoyed that part. That was fun. Now for the hockey mask, the pattern designer has you do like French knots or bullion knots. I'm not sure what it's called, but you basically use thread or yarn to make your little dots on the mask. But instead, I used a Sharpie, a permanent marker, to just dab on there. And because it's stiff from the gluing process, it was really easy to just kind of draw the dots on there. And I found that really quick, really easy, fuss-free. I highly recommend it, but I'm not sure I would recommend Sharpie in particular because I do know from times past that I have had Sharpie bleed kind of yellow over time. So maybe like a scrapbook safe type of pen, if there is one out there, I would recommend that instead of a Sharpie. If you've done patterns before where the head and the head is attached to the neck where you can twist and turn the head, that's what this doll was like. My Chucky doll was just like that. Basically, you have the neck protruding from the body, and then you have the head with the hole on the bottom, and it just fits directly onto the neck. But you have to attach the two. Otherwise, it'd be removable. The head would be removable, which you don't want. Unless that's what you want, but normally it's not. So you have to attach it. But the the thing about that is I attached it too much. Like, I did too much attaching. I think I should have just done maybe 1 or 2 at the most. And then on top of that, I put too much tension. I pulled on my threads or my yarns, whatever I was using to attach. And because of that, it limited his motion. So instead of having full range of motion like this, he's kind of like, So, which is really sad, but I mean, I meant well. And I should have known I didn't have to be that careful because it's going to an adult. But alas, so if you're gonna make that kind of a doll with the attachment with the head and movable, don't get too carried away with the attachment, and check your tension. Before you tie it off, check your tension, make sure that your head is mobile like how you want it to before you tie it off, and weave in your ends like I did. Now for the handle of his weapon, I did switch out the felt, which I think was a suggested medium for the handle, for a toothpick. I cut off the tip of the toothpick and I painted it with black acrylic paint, and I used that. Basically, structure for my sword or whatever it is, what is it called, a machete? So it goes from the handle all the way through to the tip of the blade. So I thought it would add some structure to it, and I liked the way that it came out, and it was easy for me to insert into the hand. Now, when I made this pattern, the eyebrows were questionable for me, but this doll was requested by my fiance's really good friend. So he's a really good family friend. And I asked him, what do you think about the eyebrows? I mean, it's a bit much, don't you think? And he goes, no, it matches him. The eyebrows look like his friend's eyebrows. I laughed and I said, okay. We left it in and we gifted it to him. And as soon as he lifted up the mask, everybody, his wife, his son, he himself, we were all laughing because we knew exactly what everybody was laughing at. We were laughing at the same exact thing. It was funny, but he enjoyed it. He's not offended or anything like that. So, but you don't have to keep the eyebrows if you don't want to. You can make it thinner if you want to. You can omit it if you want to. But it was just a funny thing. I was like, are these really the eyebrows? Not quite sure about that one, but it worked out. Now, one caution, the pattern designer does have you glue in the eyes, but I don't recommend you glue in the eyes. I always recommend, well, you could glue in the eyes, but I don't recommend omitting the washer in the back. If you're gonna glue it, always use, no matter what, always use the washer that comes with the safety eyes. It's just safer. Even if it's going to an adult, I would just feel safer as a maker and a gifter to have that safety eye washer secured in the back. Now this pattern is written and designed by, I'm gonna insert the name here because I will not even attempt to say that name, by Teechalit Dolls. And you can find his links down below in the description box. My next finished project is this skull coaster. This pattern is by Miss Dodgers, and I found her on Etsy. I think she was in my Etsy feed, and that's how I came across this pattern, but I don't see her anywhere else in social media, so I will have her Etsy shop down below in the description box. Now, I love the way that it came out. I made 6 of them, and I actually have one in use right now in my studio. But although I loved the way that it came out, the process itself, I've got to be honest, it was not maker friendly. I'm not even gonna say it wasn't beginner friendly. It wasn't maker friendly. I mean, I've been crocheting for a while. I don't consider myself a beginner, but it was a doozy trying to figure this out. So you start off with the skull and then you work your way out. But when I was working the skull, I had the darndest time. I maybe attempted 5 times. I'd crochet and then I'd rip out, and I'd crochet and I'd rip out, and I'd do this about 5 times until I got to a point where I actually made progress. I moved past a certain section and then it started looking like a skull, and I was like, what just happened? What did I do? So after I completed the skull and I did it a second time, it was easier. But it wasn't until I finished the 6th one that I realized what my problem was. And I think what it was is, when you're doing the skull, in my mind's eye, I'm thinking it's symmetrical. You take one half, because you're working in rows, and you take one half and the other half and it looks symmetrical. So I'm thinking at the end of each row, it should look symmetrical. Well, that wasn't the case because of the shape of the skull. And I didn't consider that as far as designing this pattern. And so I think maybe if you were a designer and a pattern writer, maybe you would have gotten it much quicker, but I'm not a pattern writer. In this section here, right by the jawline, when you get to like the cheekbone area, in that section, you will find that at the end of a particular row, you will not be symmetrical until you finish the next row. Then it starts looking symmetrical, and then you can continue on and you're fine. It looks fine. But I think that part where I wasn't looking symmetrical, I was scratching my head and I was like, what? It doesn't even look right. And so I kept ripping back, and instead of moving forward, I kept hitting a block. So if you're going to attempt this pattern, I have a plethora, I'm serious, I got a list of tips to help you along the way, because I would love for other makers to make this, because I really do love the finished project. It's just that I think the pattern could have been written, maybe not written a little differently, maybe more photos. I think better quality photos with less shadowing, easier to see, in-process shots, I think would have helped this pattern immensely. So I've listed a bunch of tips, and I will leave them in the description box below. Hopefully I'll have enough space, but I've listed them down below. I'm not gonna describe them here on the video because it's too many, but I hope that you'll give it a try. It is a pretty pattern and a lovely coaster. I think it's fun for Halloween. Or if you're into this kind of stuff all year round, kudos to you. But I think I'll just bust these out for Halloween only. But yeah, I love them, and I love seeing them on my tabletops with my mugs on there. Oh, and also they're nice and big, because some of my mugs are huge. They're like Friends size mugs, if you know what I'm talking about. They're not the typical mug sizes, they're the big ones. So these are a nice big size to hold my big mugs. But I will tell you, I did use Hobby Lobby's I Love This cotton yarn, which is a 4-weight cotton yarn, and I think a 3.75 F millimeter hook to make this, to get this size, and I love it. So, but if you use smaller yarn and a smaller hook, of course you're gonna get a smaller coaster. But I love it. I love the pattern after I figured it out. Once I figured it out, it was easy and I cranked them all out fine. Now, I did find an error in this pattern. It's line 4 of round 10. The number of repetitions should read 4 instead of 5. If you do 5, the number of stitches at the end of the round will be incorrect. But if you do 4, it makes it correct. And I hope that helps you out. My next finished object is this Frankensteddy. I think it's called Frankensteddy because it is Frankenstein's monster, but instead of monster, it's Frankenstein's teddy. This pattern is written and designed by Erinna Lee of Little Aqua Girl. She also goes by the name of Little Crochet Hook or something like that. I'll have it on the screen, but she goes by 3 names. Now, the colors that Erinna used in her pattern were muted colors and not very Halloween, but I wanted my Frankensteddy to come out a little more traditional. So I looked up colors on Google and this is what I came out with. And I'm super happy with the way he came out. I love his green skin. And his outfit, so adorable. Look at his cute little tail. Now I love that this fabric is mottled, like it's not one solid color. I love that look, and I believe this is Hobby Lobby's I Love This yarn printed, like one of those stonewash type prints. Love, love, love it. Now this pattern was pretty straightforward. I did not find any errors, and it was an easy make. I mean, it takes some time, you know, amigurumi takes some time. One thing I did modify with this pattern is the way that I attach the legs. I believe Erinna has you attach the legs on the side, but I like to attach it on the bottom so that he can look, if you wanted to pose him, he can look as if he's standing or sitting. But if you attach the legs on the side, he can only look like he's sitting. You know those patterns where they attach it on the side? Yeah, so he can only be sitting. And if I did attach it on the side, usually I sew it and then it's fixed and he's just only like that. But I like a little more options. So yeah, and then he can like swing his legs forwards and backwards. The other one, you can't have it because it swings outwards and inwards the way that you were to attach it. So that's the only modification I made to this pattern. My next finished object is this cute little mini witch. Now this pattern, I'm sure you all know, just by looking at her, is written and designed by Erinna Lee of Crochet Confetti. And this is one of her freebie patterns on her Instagram account. So I will have that link down below in the description box. I ran out of my white yarn, so I had to improvise on the colors. So mine is really goth. She's full on black stealth mode with the exception of her scarf and her hat. But the original pattern has, I think, some coloring in her legs. I think there's supposed to be some white in there somewhere, but yeah, she's full on stealth mode. I love the way that she came out as usual, and she's building up my collection, as one of my goals was to build up my Erinna Lee mini crochet patterns. So she's gonna go up on my crochet confetti doll shelf here, if she can fit. I mean, I don't know how I'm gonna work that out, but yeah. Now, one thing I'll say is, if you're like me and many others out there, I know, if you do not like working in the round with less than 6 single crochets, you are not going to be happy with this portion of the hat. You could make it fatter. I'm not sure how it's going to look, but you know, you can modify things. That's the great thing about being a maker, is you can modify patterns to make it easier for you, or even just to match your preference. But for me, I did persevere, and my tip for you is just grab your favorite drink, watch your favorite podcast, or put on your favorite song and just push through and go slowly. Stitch by stitch is very slow. You're not racing through this section, I promise you that. And it's doable. It's just, it's not without pain and maybe a little colorful words here and there. But I pushed through, and I'm glad that I did, because I do love the way that it came out. Now there is some hand stitching. If you notice, this is some embroidery and it is done by hand. It's not crocheted in, so just be aware of that. I did end up making 2 colored scarves because I just thought that the black wasn't enough and I wanted a pop of color. And to add some fuller extra texture around her neck, I thought that the one wasn't enough, so I did 2. And I just twisted them around and then wrapped it around her neck. And I love the way that it came out. My next finished object is, and I love the name, it's Garlic the Bat. Isn't she so cute? And she's not a typical Halloween bat, and that's what I love about her. I love her colors. I love that her wings are a granny stitch. I think that's what drew me in, is her color, her granny stitch wings, and her name. I just think she is so adorable. But she is part of my Halloween mix because she's a bat. And she's got a little purple in there. So, and some orange, peachy orange. Now this pattern is by Valerie of Melealine, I think is how it's pronounced. I'm not sure. I might be butchering it, but I'll have a link down below. And just so you know, you will not be able to work the body and head in one piece just because of the way that the head is constructed. It's constructed from the nose all the way back to the head, to the back of the head. And then the way that it's positioned onto the body. So it's not one continuous piece where you can work the head and body together as you would with like a snowman. So just keep that in mind. So you will have to attach and sew these two body parts together, which is not a big deal because I think she's worth it. This pattern was pretty straightforward. She's got great photos in process shots, which I really appreciate as a maker. And I think it helps with the success of the maker in making a finished object that looks just like the one that the designer intended. So I really appreciate that. I highly recommend this pattern. I highly recommend this designer and her pattern shop on Etsy, so go check it out. And if you like this bat, a lot of her other patterns are so cute. All of her animals and things are just as cute like this one. I mean, she's got things like insects that look cute like this. I've never thought of insects as being cute, but I mean, she makes them look cute. Now, last year for Halloween, I made some plushy gummy bears. And I only made a few. It wasn't very much. I feel like it was only a handful, like maybe 6. I can't remember. I'll have to watch my old video to figure out how many I made. But I only made so many. And so I had to kind of handpick who I was going to gift those to. And so my fiance and I were talking about it and we figured, okay, I would handpick the recipients to be the little ones, you know, the ones who are like first time Halloween trick-or-treaters or little toddlers, the little ones. That's what Halloween is for. They're special. So I got to handpick, and the little ones, I would just keep it on the down low. I'd have it in my pocket and I'd be like, hold on. We'd give the candy and be like, hold on, I have one more thing. And I'd bust it out and I'd say, here's your gummy bear, but don't eat it. It's not edible. Don't eat your gummy bear. And what's fun is this year, some of those moms remembered that gummy bear. And one of those moms, I didn't hear it personally. It was my fiance who said, I was so busy with the trick-or-treaters. He said there was one mom who said, oh, we remember you from last year. Our daughters still love their gummy bears from last year. And that was so nice to hear. I mean, it was secondhand, but it was so nice to hear that people remember it. And I did hear somebody yell out, oh, you're the lady from last year. You had your something about last year. And I was like, again, I was inundated. It kind of just went over my head with all the trick-or-treaters. But it was nice to hear and see that people remembered me from last year and they still appreciate and have their toys with them. So that was great. But this year, I decided to go with a teddy bear. I'm calling them teddy bears. I looked it up. Teddy bear is already taken, which is very sad. But I'm gonna refer to them as teddy bears in this video, and that's what I called them on Halloween. So I made much more this year so that I could pass them on to majority of the trick-or-treaters. However, I will say that in our neighborhood, we hardly get any trick-or-treaters for some reason. And it's very sad. I mean, last year was really sad. We were handing out candies and by like the first hour, I was like, never mind this little pinch here, a little pinch there. I was grabbing handfuls and giving them away because I didn't want to be stuck with all the candy because it's just not good for our waistline here at home. Yeah, we didn't get very many. So this year when I made these, I actually made 31 of these. And at times there were times where I was like, do you think 31 is good enough? But I was like, yeah, it's gonna be one of those things where if I run out, I run out. That's just it. We're just gonna close up shop. If it's early, then let it be so. But I didn't expect that just because of the turnout from last year. So, but this year, I spread out a table full of this stuff, and it was nice to see their reaction. They were all like, ooh and ah, and they couldn't wait to get to the table. I mean, some of them were running, but a lot of them, our first group of kids, were lined up so nicely. I mean, granted, we weren't ready, and we had to last minute grab our table and put it to the front door, because when the doorbell rang, the sun was still out and it was still early, so I thought. And Miko was expecting friends to come over for Halloween trick-or-treating and a party, like a small little get-together party. So when I answered the door, I was just like, hi, and I was expecting to greet a friend, but it was like, trick-or-treat, and I was like, oh, trick-or-treat. I was totally caught off guard. I turned around and my fiance is there and he's looking at me like, and I'm like, trick-or-treat, and then it dawned on me, I need candy. I was like in full panic mode, and the table was there and he's like, come on, help me grab the table. So I'm like, okay. So I helped grab the table, we brought it to the front door, and then the kids lined up. It started off with 3, but by the time the table went to the front door, it was like maybe 12 deep. It was crazy. I was like, where are all these kids coming from? It was crazy, and it was early. We never had early trick-or-treaters. I don't know what was going on. But they were really pleasant, all nice, and there's no stealing, which, you know, I was a little concerned about. But it was pretty cool. They were all excited. They weren't even paying attention to the candy. They were just all about the toys. And then we were like, hold on, here's your candy. That's what you came for, right? And then I was also passing out those glow sticks. So I was busy kind of asking them which color they wanted, because I had a selection of colors. So I think if I were to do this again next year, I'm gonna just bag candy, a toy, and a glow stick all together, and just whatever combination they have it is what it is, kind of like a mystery bag of sorts. So because the questioning, oh, just pick a toy, here's your candy, and in which color glow stick, it was a bit much. So I think I'm just gonna streamline it next year. You get what you get, kind of thing. But I'm super happy with the turnout of our Halloween. We had a blast. I had a blast giving them away and setting up shop, if you will. It was a bit chilly outside, but it was really nice, and we got to see and watch all the kids pass by. I mean, albeit it wasn't very many. I think this year there were more groups of children as opposed to little families, like a trick-or-treater here and a trick-or-treater there. There were more like groups of people huddled together, so big masses. But yeah, I really enjoyed giving these out, and so were the children, and I'm super happy that I chose this. Now this pattern is written and designed by Danielle of Danielle Designs, and she does have a YouTube channel, and that's what I followed. And it's so super fun working on these. You can mix and match the colors of the arms and legs and the hands and feet. I mean, I made some of these for Miko's friends. I asked her, who do you want to give one to? And asked them for their favorite colors. But one of them, it was so funny because most of them had like 2 color choices. They said blue and white, pink and green, something like that. But one of them, it was so funny. It was like super complex. It was like a grayish, turquoise, brown, blue. I mean, it was like, it wasn't even just simple colors, blue, gray, brown. I mean, grayish. I was like, who does grayish? And it was a plethora. It was like 5 different colors. It was quite impressive. I was like, is he gonna be like an interior designer or an artist when he grows up? Because he knows his color scheme, and he was super happy with his teddy bear, I will say. And these are high schoolers, you know. So it was fun to see that even high schoolers can enjoy these little guys. I had super fun working these up because I got to use a lot of fun colors, like bright colors that I don't normally use. Like I got to use my neon colors, which I don't use ever, but Halloween time was a great time to bust them out. But I didn't have enough neon colors, so what did I do? I went to Hobby Lobby and I loaded up on some neon colors. And I'm so glad that I did, because they look really cool, especially against black. They turned out really cool. I'm super happy. I wish I got a better shot of them, because then you can see the color combinations that I use, but it was super fun. I really enjoyed. But these, I wouldn't say are necessarily, they look really cute and they're small, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend them for markets, because market preps, you kind of want something quick and easy to mass produce so you can sell them at a reasonable price depending on how much time you put in. But these are not quick makes. Not at all. You have to attach, well, the arms and legs to the body, and then the arms and legs to the feet and hands, meaning the balls. And then you can work this body and head together. They are made separately in the pattern, but it's easy to just work them up as one piece. And then you also have to attach the ears, attach the muzzle, and then there are some embroidery stitching. So although they look small and easy quick makes, they are not at all. But I was in a mood for making, and I wanted to mass make, and I wanted to do something special for the trick-or-treaters, and I ended up with this, and I'm super happy with the choice that I made. I really, really love the outcome. So thank you for watching today's video and watching this far. Now my next video will be on autumnal makes, and I hope you will join me for that. So keep an eye out for that video. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.